Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Econobox garage. As we continue with the Bugeye build, I'll be refurbishing the front lever arm shocks or dampers. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy this week's video. Before I can put the front suspension on, I need to check the fluid on the front dampers. This is the left-hand side one, and this is the right-hand side. So the plan is to remove the cover, drain out all the old fluid, and replace that with some fresh shock oil. Exactly the same process I did for the rear shocks, and I'll put a link above to the video that I did that. Well, there we have the cover off, and you can see it's low on fluid and it's pretty dirty in there. So I'll pull the gasket off carefully so I can make a new one, drain whatever fluid is left, and then give it a good clean before topping it up with fresh fluid. Well, there I've got the gasket cleaned off the surface there and a little bit of cleanup inside. I have been talking to All Lever Shocks from Australia about how best to clean this out, and their suggestion was basically to get as much cleaner in here as possible and also to remove the valve here. So I'm going to do that. I'll take it over to my parts cleaner and work this back and forth, and the tip that they gave was the dirtier you get, the cleaner the part will get. So this is a little valve body that goes in there. There's a spring that goes in first, the plunger, and when you're taking these apart, make sure you don't lose the little shim that you can see here. That needs to go back in the same spot. And then this little valve comes out of there as well. So these need to be cleaned up thoroughly, and there's some little passages through all this valve thing here. So don't lose your little spacer or your shim, and just make sure this is all cleaned up. So before taking this over to the tank, I'll drain out what fluid is in here so I can get everything as clean as possible. So after spending some time in the parts cleaner and doing some brake clean and what have you, now it's time to fill it back up. Now first I'm going to put the valve back in the bottom. So I'll turn this so this is facing up. I'll fill this up with the shocker fluid, put the top on, tilt it back down again, take the valve out, and then top this up and then work any air bubbles out. I've just blown this dry to get rid of traces of the brake clean. I'm using the shocker oil number 2, in which I put the rear shocks together. It's a Penrite product. I will put a link in the description below as to where I got that here in Alberta. So now I'm going to just take that and fill this just shy of the top here. So let's get this filled up, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now, as I've already mentioned, I picked up the gaskets from All Lever Shocks in Australia, and they've been extremely helpful with tips and tricks on how to get these lever shocks back working properly. I'll put a link to All Lever Shocks in the description below.
Well, there's the main cover back on. I'll just loosen the vise up a little bit, and then I can spin it down and around. So now I'll take the valve back out and top that up. And as I'm filling that up, I'm going to work the lever back and forth to work out any air bubbles that are in the system. I'm making sure that I've got the shim there. I'll put that in. This is going to make a bit of a mess, so I put this in here, but so just to recap, I filled the main cavity with this cover off, put the cover back on, filled up through the valve and made sure and got rid of the air bubbles as best I could. So now I'm just going to top it up through the, what I'll call the official fill hole, and you can see why it's, I did it the other way because it would take forever to fill it up through here. So I'll just take this off, top it off, and then just double check to make sure we've got everything filled up to where it needs to be. So there we have the right hand lever arm shock absorber or damper, all ready to go back on the car. Although I think I will put a coat of black paint on the arm on this one. And I just repeat the process for the one for the left hand side, and those will be ready to go back on the car. And that's all I have time for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to share it with your friends. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget that little bell icon. Click on that and you'll get notified when the next video comes out. My name is Ian. This is the Econobox Garage. We'll see you next time.